In this video, we are going to look at the method of feeding catfish or feeding technique. This is a subject that differs among different fish farmers. So feeding techniques is highly subjective process that differs among catfish farmers, as there appear to be no one accepted best method for feeding catfish. So what this simply means is that there is no one accepted method of how you should feed your catfish, because environment and so many other things, that is factors, affect this very feeding habit of catfish. So as I have rightly said, that there is no one best method that is used in feeding catfish. If this is your first time of coming across our video, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and also follow us on our Facebook page and share. So let's dive back to what we've been saying. This is due to so many factors that cannot be controlled, which will lead to variation in feeding practice by different farms or different farmers. To ensure you try to, but ensure you try to be of a good practice. Ensure that you try to be of a good practice. In some farms, the way they feed their fish is feeding the percentage of the body weight, feeding of the percentage of the body weight, which they normally take as 5%. While other is to feed their fishes to satisfaction. So they will keep giving to the fish, they will keep feeding the fish until the fishes are satisfied. So we are going to look at some of the way to feed different stages or ages of catfish. So we are going to look at some of the ways to feed different stages or ages of catfish. Number one of the age or stages is feeding of fries. How do you feed your fries? When catfish newly hatch, they they are called catfish fries. They are called catfish fries. They uses their egg, the yolk of the sac. They uses the yolk of the sac as an energy and nutrient source. Once the yolk is absorbed, that is approximately between 3 to 5 days, the fries, they will begin to move about. They will begin to move about to look for feed. So at this stage, feed them with protein rich feed. Feed them with protein rich feed of about 50 to 55% of protein content. The number of times to feed this fish can be up to 8 times a day, but care must be taken to manage water qualities because they are very tender. When I say it can be up to 8 times a day, it does not mean that you must feed them 8 times a day. You go to the pond, you sprinkle little on it, they pick it. Now, after about 2 3 hours later, you come back, you still sprinkle little on it, but ensure that the water is not be contaminated, because if your water is contaminated, it's easy for the fries to die. Ensure when feeding, drop at the corner of the tank and also at the middle. What I mean by this is that sprinkle round the tank for the fries to be able to pick it, so that the fries can be able to pick it. So when the fries are able to pick it, they will grow faster, because at that very point, all of them are struggling for food. There are thousands of fries in that very tank at that very point in time. So the number two that we are going to look at on how to feed catfish is the feeding of fingerling. Fingerling should be fed 2 to 3 times daily with a feed content of 45 protein protein. The feed sizes should be between 1 mm, 1.2 mm, and 1.5 mm. This depend on the size because they are just growing from fries into what fingerling. So you feed them gradually and also broadcast it or spread it on the faces of the water. Broadcast or spread it on the faces of the water. So finally, we are going to look at how to feed juvenile to adult catfish. How to feed juvenile to adult catfish. Juvenile should be fed with 2 mm and 3 mm feed sizes with a minimum of 42 protein content. With a minimum of 42 protein content. And this very feed should be fed on the juvenile for about 3 months. For about 3 months. That is, you feed with 2 mm. So when they finish the 2 mm, then you start feeding with 3 mm. So sometimes you will feed the fish, that is from the very first month you stock it, for the first 2 months with 2 mm. So month one you feed with 2 mm, month two you also feed with 2 mm. By month three you change to 3 mm, and the protein content should be 42%. 42%. So after feeding for this very 3 months, you change to 4.5 mm. So you use this for 1 month. After feeding them for 1 month, you change to 6 mm. After 1 month, you change to 9 mm. At this very stage, you continue to feed them with 9 mm until harvest. But between 4 mm to 9 mm, the protein content should be between 36 to 42% protein. So if you do this, you will have a very good yield at the end of the day. But feeding of juvenile to adult stage also have different stages. You can decide to feed to smoking size, so you will not be needing 6 mm and 9 mm, even sometimes 4 mm, 4.5 mm. But if you are feeding to table size, you will need the 4.5 mm, 6 mm, and 9 mm. But if you are feeding to brood stock or parent stock, after the 6 months, you will continue to feed with 9 mm until you are ready to sell or use for yourself.